How do you end a 20-year movie franchise with one of the most iconic X-Men stories ever written and somehow make people forget it even happened? That's the question surrounding X-Men: Dark Phoenix. This was supposed to be the grand finale of Fox's X-Men universe. The last chapter before Marvel took the mutants back. Instead, it became one of the biggest box office disappointments in superhero movie history. But here's the strange thing. I don't think Dark Phoenix is as terrible as its reputation suggests. It's definitely flawed. It's definitely messy. But buried underneath all of its problems is a movie that occasionally shows flashes of what could have been an emotional and powerful ending for the X-Men. The problem is that those flashes never fully ignite, and by the end of this review, I'll explain why Dark Phoenix may be the perfect example of a franchise running out of time. Released in 2019 and directed by Simon Kinberg, Dark Phoenix attempted to adapt one of the most beloved stories in Marvel Comics, the Dark Phoenix saga. The story follows Jean Grey as she gains an unimaginable cosmic power after a rescue mission in space goes horribly wrong. As her abilities grow, so does her instability. Soon the X-Men find themselves facing an enemy they don't want to fight, one of their own. Now on paper, that sounds like the perfect setup for an emotional superhero movie. High stakes, personal conflict, characters we've followed for years. So what happened? Why did a story with so much potential end up becoming the final nail in the coffin for Fox's X-Men universe? Well, the answer starts with one thing this movie actually gets right, and one thing it gets disastrously wrong. One thing I genuinely appreciate about Dark Phoenix is its smaller scale. After years of world-ending threats and giant CGI battles, this movie tries something different. Instead of saving the planet, the story focuses on Jean Grey herself. The conflict is personal. The enemy isn't a giant robot. It's trauma, it's grief, it's identity. And honestly, that's refreshing. Sophie Turner gives a solid performance as Jean Grey. You can feel the confusion and anger bubbling beneath the surface as she struggles to control powers she barely understands. James McAvoy also has some surprisingly strong moments as Professor X. For years, Charles Xavier has been portrayed as the wise mentor. Here, the movie finally questions him. Has he been helping his students or manipulating them? It's one of the few genuinely interesting ideas in the film. Michael Fassbender's Magneto continues to be one of the franchise's strongest characters, even though it feels like the movie doesn't quite know what to do with him. At this point, Fassbender could probably play Magneto in his sleep and still be entertaining. But then we start running into the movie's biggest problems. The first issue is pacing. Nothing feels fully developed. Major emotional moments arrive before they've been earned. Characters make huge decisions with very little build-up. Relationships that should carry emotional weight barely have enough screen time to matter. And because of that, the movie constantly feels like it's rushing toward the finish line. Then there's the villains. Or should I say, the villain. Jessica Chastain's alien leader is easily one of the weakest antagonists in the entire X-Men franchise. She's not threatening, she's not memorable, and she mostly exists to push the plot forward. Every great superhero movie needs a compelling force opposing the hero. Dark Phoenix never finds one. But here's where the movie creates a dangerous illusion. Around the halfway point, it genuinely feels like things are about to come together. Jean's conflict becomes more intense, the relationships start cracking, the emotional stakes begin rising, and for a moment you start thinking, okay, maybe this is where the movie turns the corner. Maybe this is where it becomes the great Dark Phoenix adaptation fans have wanted for decades. Maybe this is finally the moment the movie finds its identity. That's the false hope. Because instead of digging deeper into its characters, the film keeps cutting corners. Important scenes feel shortened. Character arcs feel unfinished. Big emotional revelations come and go almost instantly. You can practically see the studio interference hidden between the edits. The movie isn't terrible, it's incomplete, and that's arguably more frustrating. Because you can see the better version trying to break through, you can see the movie that almost existed, But almost becomes the defining word of the entire experience, almost emotional, almost epic, almost memorable, almost great. The most important thing about Dark Phoenix isn't actually the story, it's what the movie represents. This film is the final chapter of the Fox X-Men saga, a franchise that began all the way back in 2000, a franchise that helped prove superhero movies could be taken seriously. Without X-Men, there might not be an MCU, there might not be a modern superhero boom. That's why watching Dark Phoenix feels strangely emotional. Not because the movie itself is powerful, but because you're watching the end of an era. The train sequence near the climax is probably the movie's strongest action scene. The X-Men working together, Magneto unleashing his powers, Nightcrawler finally cutting loose. For a few minutes, you get a glimpse of what this franchise did better than most superhero series: teamwork, mutants fighting side by side, distinct powers working together. It's exciting, it's fun. And ironically, it arrives just as the franchise is saying goodbye. That's the movie in a nutshell. Its best moments arrive when it's already too late. In the end, X-Men Dark Phoenix isn't the worst superhero movie ever made. It's something much sadder, a missed opportunity, a movie filled with good ideas that never fully develop, a finale that struggles under the weight of expectations, rewrites, and a franchise that had already begun running out of momentum. But despite all its flaws, I can't completely hate it, because every once in a while it reminds you why people fell in love with the X-Men in the first place. Not because of the explosions, not because of the visual effects, but because at their best, the X-Men stories were always about people trying to find their place in a world that didn't understand them. Dark Phoenix may not have been the ending fans wanted, but it remains a fascinating reminder that sometimes the most disappointing movies aren't the ones that fail completely, they're the ones that almost succeeded. And that's my review of X-Men Dark Phoenix. Let me know in the comments, is this movie underrated, or did it deserve all the criticism it received?